Good evening, everybody. This is Pastor Ron checking in. Uh, been a week since the last video, and today is actually Valentine's Day. Just so everybody could, if you look, depending on when you're looking at this, I'm making this the evening of Thursday, February 14th, 2019. But anyway, the week has been a pretty good week. Uh, right smack dab in the fourth month of unemployment. And yesterday, February 13th, was particularly bad day for me, mentally and emotionally. I'm not afraid to admit that even though I'm a pastor of a church, and even though I believe God for His word and I trust Him in everything that I've done, I've moved across the country because I received the word to move, and I've moved back to other places in the country because I prayed to God and I believe this is where God had led me to be. And so ultimately, if you didn't know my story, I was most recently living in Texas, working for Toyota, and had an opportunity to work for a company back in California. And I took that opportunity after prayer. And so now, after being employed for that company for 3 months, they furloughed me, and now I'm looking for work for 4 months. And yesterday it got discouraging because I'm a very well educated man. I'm highly qualified and competent in my field. Dare I say, the number one candidate in my field, period. Um, and when you're out looking for a job and you're in this place, whether it's looking for a job or you're in this place, you're trying to understand where you are and why things aren't going the way you think they should be going, it does get hard. And I really felt scared yesterday. Fortunately, there are people in my life who I love dearly and apparently love me. And it took a conversation with a very dear friend of mine who reminded me, Ron, why don't you look at your own videos? And we talked a little more. So thank you, Darren, for that. He reminded me to shift my focus back on what's important, to shift my focus off of the problem and back to where it needs to be. The problem we have as believers and where we begin to get off track is that we get distracted by life. We get distracted by things that are happening. If you read the Gospels in the 14th chapter of Matthew, as you get towards the bottom, it's the very famous story of the disciples in the boat, and Jesus is walking up on the water to them, and they were afraid, and you know the whole bit. And Peter says, "Hey, if this is you, Lord, call me out to the water and call me out of the boat, to bid me to come to you," I believe is the language they use, depending on the translation. But Peter gets out of the boat. He walks on the water, and he's doing what's impossible, what's physically impossible for all of us to understand, and even for him to understand. And yet, while he remained focused on Jesus, he was able to do the impossible. But it was when he got distracted and started paying attention to everything else and forgetting exactly what he was able to do as long as he stayed focused and plugged into the power of Jesus Christ, is when he began to sink. And when he began to sink, he became afraid. And I believe what was going on with me and what may be going on with you, that while I'm looking for a job and you might be dealing with something else, you have taken your eyes off of Jesus and were distracted by everything else that is happening. We like to believe that, or at least in my experience, I've talked to a lot of people, and we want to attribute so much to Satan, and we want to give Satan more power than he deserves. Satan does not have the power to destroy you. He has a great deal of influence in this world. There's no question about the influence he has over this world. I mean, he's even, when he took Jesus up when he was tempted in the wilderness, telling him to bow down to me and I will give you all of this. Jesus recognizes that here Satan has a lot of influence, but he can't touch you. He can't harm you. He can't do anything to you. All he can do is try to deceive you. distract you and take your eyes off the focus, begin to lie to you. The Bible says that he is the father of lies. And when we take our eyes off of Jesus and we begin to become distracted by the lies of the enemy, then we begin to sink. And when we start to sink, we get scared and we panic. I was scared yesterday until my friend reminded me to go back and remember the things that you've preached to other people about. Go look at your videos and talk about your last video just said God provides. What are you scared of? And that hit me. It really encouraged me to really go back, look, and pray and be refocused on God. Don't let the distractions dissuade you. Don't let what the lies of the enemy say get you off track or make you lose focus. Proverbs 3:5 says, I want to say it correctly. I hate when my mind starts working this way. But lean not in your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. Lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. He will make your path straight. I mean, think about this. In all your ways. See, I started sinking, I started getting scared, and I'm thinking of everything that I gave up. I'm thinking of everything that I walked away from. I'm thinking of everything I lost coming here and not focusing on God. And that just, the lack of focus on Jesus takes you away from what you're supposed to be doing, taking you away from where you're supposed to be. Get away from your own understanding. Get away from the distractions and continue to trust in God and believe in him. Keep your focus single-mindedly, single focus, laser focused on God, on Jesus, and you will see things happen in your life. At the very least, you'll have the peace to endure. And that's more valuable than any gold, to have peace in the middle of the storm. Hey, as always, it's Pastor Ron, and you know what I'm going to say. I love you, and there ain't nothing you can do about it. Till next time.